The morning mist clung to the trees of Maple Ridge as dawn's first light filtered through the canopy. It was 6:30 a.m., and the small town lay in peaceful slumber, a peace that would shatter within minutes. Mr. Baldwin, the retired postman, took his daily walk through Pinecrest Park. His thermos crashed to the ground as a sight stopped him cold. A large German shepherd, battered and bloodied, burst from the bushes. But this wasn't an attack, it was a desperate plea for help. The dog's fur was caked with mud and dried blood. His eyes burned with intensity as he growled, not at the people gathering, but at some invisible threat. He barked furiously, circling the walking path, limping yet determined. "Rabid dog," someone shouted. Mothers grabbed their children. Joggers fled. Phones appeared, spreading panic through social media. Someone picked up a stick for protection. But the dog wasn't attacking anyone. He kept turning toward the woods, barking, stopping, as if begging someone to understand. No one listened. No one except Officer Lena Hernandez. Lena had moved to Maple Ridge after a traumatic case in the city, a child she couldn't save in time. When the dispatch crackled, aggressive stray in Pinecrest Park, possibly rabid, her gut told her something was wrong. Arriving at the scene, she saw not aggression, but desperation. The dog's eyes met hers. His growl faded. In that moment of silence, understanding passed between them. He barked once, sharp and deliberate, then bolted toward the forest. Lena followed. The abandoned forest behind the park had grown wild over the years. Thorns tore at Lena's uniform as she chased the dog deeper into the wilderness. Memories of her past failure flickered, another child, another race against time. The dog stopped suddenly at a mound of disturbed earth, partially hidden under leaves and cardboard. He looked up at Lena, whimpered once, and stepped aside. Lena dropped to her knees. There, in a shallow pit, lay a newborn, barely alive. Gray skin, blue lips, a tiny hand reaching upward. As Lena wrapped her jacket around the infant and radioed for help, the dog sat beside her like a guardian statue, his breathing shallow, eyes fixed on the baby with protective devotion. News broke within hours. Local stations ran the story with headlines like "Hero Dog Saves Abandoned Infant." Social media exploded with images of the baby being carried into the hospital and the German shepherd lying beside the pit. The baby was nicknamed Hope by the nurses who tended to her. She was critical, but alive. The dog was taken to animal control for examination. Rumors of rabies were put to rest when test results came back. No disease, just dehydration, exhaustion, and old scars. A microchip scan revealed his name, Shadow. He had been reported missing 6 months ago, but no one had come for him since. His previous owners had moved out of state and left him behind. For months, Shadow survived on his own, wandering through woods and neighborhoods, until he disappeared into the wilderness one stormy night. Shadow's story slowly came to light. He had been a loyal family pet before abandonment. Since then, he'd been seen occasionally by neighbors until that final storm, when no one saw him again. Flashbacks built the timeline. That night, a pregnant teenage girl named Mia Carver had stumbled into the forest, alone and in labor. She had run away from home after her pregnancy was discovered. Her parents had rejected her. She gave birth in the middle of the storm, in the dark woods, with no one to help her. Thinking the baby was stillborn, she placed the child in a shallow hole under cardboard and leaves, then fled. Mia was found in a nearby church shelter days later, dehydrated and in shock. When shown a photo of the baby, she collapsed. She had truly believed her child had died. Shadow had found the baby first. Somehow, he had heard her faint cries. He had clawed away the leaves and dirt and lay beside her through the cold night, sharing his body heat, shielding her from rain, even licking her face to keep her awake. In the early morning, he had run toward the park, toward people, toward help. What others saw as a threat was a desperate cry to save the life of someone too small to scream loud enough. Lena took Shadow into her care without hesitation. Something about the way he looked at her stirred something deep inside: guilt, redemption, and hope. She remembered the little boy she had failed to save a year ago. The image of his teddy bear still haunted her. But now, it felt as though life had given her a second chance, this time, through Shadow. At the hospital, Shadow was allowed to visit Hope. During one of those visits, something remarkable happened. As Shadow placed his paw on the incubator's glass, Hope's vitals stabilized. Her breathing deepened. Her heartbeat became steady. Nurses and doctors called it a coincidence until it happened again. Each time Shadow came near, Hope calmed. One day, she even smiled a faint, barely there smile when Shadow sat beside her crib. Doctors brought in psychologists. They called it trauma-linked imprinting. Hope had bonded with the first presence that offered her warmth and safety. Shadow had become her anchor. Lena, having seen miracles denied her before, didn't need science to explain it. She simply called it love. Over the next few weeks, Shadow became more than a rescue dog. He became a symbol. The police department certified him as an emotional support animal. He began visiting schools, trauma centers, and hospitals. Children who hadn't spoken in months opened up when Shadow sat beside them. Veterans touched his fur and broke down in tears. Shadow wasn't just healing Hope, he was healing an entire town. Mia, after months of therapy and counseling, was allowed supervised visits with Hope. She watched, tears streaming, as Shadow sat beside the crib and Hope wiggled in delight. Mia thanked Lena for saving her daughter, something she hadn't believed possible. She planned to get her GED and go into nursing. She wanted to be there for other young women who felt as alone as she had. Lena and Mia stayed in touch, quietly forming a bond over the life of one small girl and one extraordinary dog. Months passed. Hope grew stronger. She was adopted permanently by a loving foster family who lived just outside town, but they made sure Hope saw Shadow every week. When she began crawling, her first instinct was to reach for Shadow's tail. When she walked, she followed him like a shadow of her own. Shadow aged gracefully, his fur graying but his spirit never dimming. He became a fixture on Lena's porch, always watching, always waiting. The town changed because of him. Strangers began helping one another. People looked twice before judging a bark or a growl. 1 year after the rescue, Maple Ridge held a ceremony. Shadow was given a Medal of Honor. Hope, now healthy and toddling, giggled as she reached for his ears. Mia stood quietly in the background, eyes full of quiet thanks. Lena stood before the crowd and told the story, not just of a dog who saved a baby, but of a town that learned to love again. She ended the speech with quiet conviction. Sometimes, the ones we fear the most are the ones who save us. And sometimes, the greatest rescues are the ones who rescue us right back. That night, as the stars shimmered above Maple Ridge, Shadow lay on the porch beside Lena, the soft sound of Hope's laughter in the distance. The wind rustled the trees. The world was quiet. And for the first time in years, so was Lena's heart.